Welcome to Wealth Coffee Chats, folks, for your daily live updates. Get the most out of today's episode by participating in the chat. Make sure you ask some questions, be part of the conversation, have a bit of fun, grab a coffee or a tea, take some notes, and get ready to start your day, folks. Quick few housekeeping rules, though. No spamming, no advertising or self-promotion in the chat. That's not on. Be kind and respectful to everyone when participating. And most of all, have a good time. Real estate investing can be your biggest asset. It also can be your most expensive asset when it comes to getting it right or getting it wrong, folks. It can be time-consuming, stressful, and that's why here at Positive, we have what's called a 6-star team, a full-service team that provides integrated wealth and property investing solutions and services simply designed to help you progress towards your goal of passive income through your property portfolio, folks. Make sure you check out our other podcasts on the Positive Mentor Network. Not only is there Wealth Coffee Chats, there's the Urban Property Investor. Drops every Wednesday with straight talking investing strategies and lessons with Sam Saggers. Property Investor Tales. This is where our clients, you guys, share real life stories from property investing, hosted by some of our advisors and strategists. And that's done every fortnight, dropping every Monday. Wealth, Wine and Wisdom, folks, that debriefs the week that was in the world of finance and property, hosted by yours truly, Jason Witten and Andy Fenton on Fridays. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chats. Marvellous Monday. Hope you're well, folks, wherever you are. If you think it's Get Rich Quick, you're in the wrong place. This is the wrong podcast. This is the wrong live for you. Welcome to another Wealth Coffee Chat. Hope you're all awesome and well.
There you go, team. As that intro sort of alluded to, this is a 6-star team, and it's another Wednesday, Property Management Wednesday chat here on Wealth Coffee Chats. And I think I'm on my own today. No Warren in the background helping me out. So this could be a bit of fun this morning, team. But yeah, look, thanks for jumping online this morning, team. As you guys know, if you haven't sort of seen me around before, my name's Cass, representing the Property Management team, part of that 6-star team here at Positive and R&W, which is great. Got a few people jumping online, so let's just check out quickly who's here. Jeff, good to see you. Yes, I will be seeing you Friday, absolutely, and over the weekend. So a bit of a teaser there. We might talk about that at the end of this morning's session. Kevin, good evening, good morning from me. Good evening to you. And Luke's on as well. Mate, I'm doing well. I'm getting prepared. I'm getting ready for the summit event, which kicks off Friday for the most of us, which will be absolutely fantastic. And looking forward to that. Couple of things. I don't want to give everything away today, right? We're going to save some of the content to the weekend. But yeah, good morning to you, Sonia. Just making the coffee. Yes, I've got mine as well, and looks like you'll be there as well, Sonia. So yeah, absolutely, team. Anyone that's going to be there at the summit on the weekend, definitely come tap me on the shoulder and we'll have a chat all things property management, which will be really good. So, team, a little bit about this morning. Routine inspections. What are they? How they all keep you safe. And again, for those that don't know, if you're tuning in for the first time, look, I've been in the industry about 13 years now. And I think, over that time, I couldn't count or remember all the routine inspections I've done over those years, but certainly I certainly do remember that success leaves clues. And some of the things I want to share with you today is in relation to, what that routine inspection should look like. Why is it important when it's not done at all or not done correctly to the level that we believe it should? Then, what are the consequences for you as the investor, you as the landlord? Does that affect your tenancy? What does that look like for your cash flow? So I'm just going to have a bit of a chat about that this morning, team. I've got 6 key points I want to make today. Hopefully it's a bit more of a informative question. First thing I want to know from you guys, through your portfolio, through the time that you've been holding your property so far, have you had any negative experiences so far with your routine inspections? Pop it in the chat form if you had a routine inspection that you weren't happy with. If you've had a routine inspection, perhaps that wasn't done right. Whilst you guys do that in the chat for me, let me know of your experience. One of the stories that comes to my mind, this was probably going back a couple of years, but I had a client ring me and say, hey, listen, I've got a bit of trouble going on with the tenant. So long story short, we unpacked that. We took over the file, and what we found was that over a course of 2 years of this tenancy, not one routine inspection was done, which is interesting, right? Is it a requirement to do it? Potentially, right? Potentially. So really important for today that you guys understand what it is, why it's important, and perhaps when you're talking to your property management team, asking them to show you their standard and looking at that. So yes, grab your coffee, Brendan, for sure. Definitely need it this morning. I know I do. So morning to you. So team, anyone, pop in the chat if you've had any experience around routine inspections, because what are they, right? Now, depending on which state and territory you're in, there are some frequency, regulation and restrictions around how often you can do a routine inspection at your property. And it's something obviously your property manager does. If you're self-managing, I hope you're doing it yourself. That's a conversation for another day. But I think, for example, in Queensland, it's every 3 months that we are allowed to, go through that routine inspection. Down in Victoria, some other states as well, might be every sort of 6 months. Sonia's jumped in and said, yep, I've got a property in Queensland. So, Sonia, it's every sort of three or so months, every quarter that we can legally go and do a routine inspection. So that's number one, understanding the frequency, how often, right, should we, as a property management team, as investors, be conducting a routine inspection. That's number one, because like I said before, at the top of this, right, I've had an example where, this wasn't done for a period of 2 years, and I'll share very quickly what the outcome of that, because the outcome, team, when it's not done, is that it doesn't keep you safe, right? Your property manager is that number one person in your team that is your eyes and ears on the ground, to check in on your tenancy and the property and how that's being maintained. Again, if that's not being done, then we don't have the transparency and the sight of what is actually happening with our investment. And, sometimes that outcome, worst case scenario, can mean that when the tenant vacates, you've got a situation where, you've got no paperwork, you've got no documentation or history on the property and the tenancy, and therefore, you may have a bond claim be thrown out. You may have an insurance claim where the insurer says, thanks, but no, you don't have the evidence to back you up. So, I want to give you guys 6 key points on why they are important. And if any of these 6 key points concern you or you feel challenged by it, certainly let me know, because, this is something that, super, super important. I know it might sound really simple, but what I have found in property management is the simple stuff is not always done. So I'll pop my email address up there, team. So if you feel, take note of that. If you feel like any of these stuff is something you want to unpack further, I do encourage you guys to let me know. So whilst my email goes across the screen, why are they important? Number one, risk management, right? We want to know at the frequency that legislation allows us to. We want to get into the property and have a visual look of what's actually going on. We want to allow these routine inspections to help us identify any potential risks, hazards, anything there that could affect, influence, or limit our ability for our property, right, your investment, to generate cash flow now and into the future, right? If there's significant things going on the property and we're not attending to it, then of course that will, affect your ability, the property's ability to generate income now and into the future, right? Huge one. So number one, risk management. That's why it's super important. Bear with me, team, as I go through the chat. Brendan says, is it bad you find... what has he got here? Is it bad if you find the reports are just being copied and pasted? Yeah, well, potentially, Brendan, potentially. I'm going to share something at the summit, actually, which touches on that. So if anyone's coming to the summit, stay tuned for that. But I think, look, Brendan, it's okay, maybe if the condition is still the same, right? But what happens if we're not actually paying attention to the property? That's probably the discrepancy there, right? It's no point just copy pasting things if we haven't even gone to the property or actually paid attention. So yeah, it's an interesting one. Probably not is probably my feedback on that one. So number one, risk management. That's why it's important. Number two, to identify any maintenance, right? We want to understand if things are, if it's wear and tear, that's fine, because that comes with the journey of holding property. But we want to understand what's, again, going on. Help you get your property manager to help you identify any maintenance problems that might be coming up now and again into the future. Why? Because it actually helps rents stay at market level, if not obviously allow you to maximize that into the future. So when we talk about, the keep you safe, make you wealthy, the report is to keep you safe. And if you are kept safe, then you give yourself the best chance to make wealth into the future. So you want to know how your property is being maintained. And that leads to the third point, and that's around financial management. If we are frequently going into the property, doing quality reports, not copy pasting, as Brendan has mentioned and alluded to, then we can identify any risks up front. We can identify any maintenance that we might need to deal with now and into the future. It allows you as the investor to financially manage that situation a lot better from a cash flow perspective, i.e., I can start to see the kitchen is 15 years old and it's wearing down, and I may need to upgrade the kitchen. Or that appliance is 10 years old. Hang on a minute, it's past its lifespan. I might need to buy a new oven for $800 tomorrow, or in 6 months, 12 months, whatever it may be. That's what the smart investors, are doing, right? It's about not necessarily predicting the future, right? But it's about understanding what's going on in the property to help you manage, keep that property for a longer period of time. Yeah, Brenda said manager's now gone. Perfect. Good work. I would have done the same. Number 4, tenant satisfaction and retention, right? We know the longer your tenant stays in your property, the less wear and tear there is on the property. We also know the longer the tenant stays in the property, the more better off you as the investor are from a cash flow perspective, right? If we are keeping the tenant happy, if the tenant loves to stay there, they are more likely to stay on, right? There maybe was a thought process, maybe, I don't know, when I first started 13 years ago, where it was like, don't worry about the tenant, they're just a tenant, etc. That's not how I think what I've learned today and what the smart investors are doing. You've got to look after your tenant, retain your tenant as much as possible, because at the end of the day, they're the ones paying you back, right? That's your return on your investment. You invest in your tenant, you invest in your property. Ultimately, you as the investor will maximize that return. So tenant satisfaction, retention, right? If we are attending to maintenance and things really quickly, if we are, looking after that property from an overall experience, then they're gonna be more satisfied at the property and not feel like they need to, give you that vacate notice and leave every 6 to 12 months. Number 5, compliance, right? I think it was last week, maybe, or maybe a few weeks ago, we were talking about minimum standards, some potential rental reforms down in Victoria that the silly politicians are talking about now, all that sort of jazz. Is it going to keep coming? Yes, is probably the answer, right? Compliance is just a part, again, of holding property. How do property investors hold property for 10, 15 plus years? How do they do that? Well, they've just got good strategies in place, right? Compliance is just another thing to do. It's just another hurdle. But if you've got a good property manager, routine inspections are all part of that, right? So, minimum standards and meeting compliance, is important. Your routine inspection actually helps you uphold that, because as an investor, as a property management team in business, we don't want we don't want fines, we don't want any legal trouble. So I think I said last week, I think some of these new rental reforms might catch a few people out. And the 6th thing there is just insurance purposes, right? I mentioned from the start. I had a client ring me just a couple of years back, and once we took over the file, I actually went to the property, knocked on the door, I walked in. No one was home, just a bunch of rubbish and old furniture. So the tenant had obviously left. And on review, there was no one of the things anyway, amongst all of it, there was no routine inspection done for 2 years. Now, when we went to the insurer to make that claim, and we were talking a significant sum of about $17,000-$18,000 here to just get back what the owner had lost and what it would cost to get the property back up to minimum standard, let's say, that was basically part of that claim was kind of thrown out, because the idea was, like, you as the property manager, or that person as the owner, as the investor, didn't continue on a frequently basis to conduct routine inspections. perhaps if this was done every 3 months, because this property was in Queensland, this wouldn't have got to the level or the situation of where it did when it did, right? And that's the interesting part. We know these things are quite simple to do, and it should just be a reoccurring process as part of your overall strategy. But again, these things just don't get done, team. It's really odd. So all in all, why they're important? I've got it written down. Number 1, risk management team. Number 2, help you identify maintenance. Number 3, financial management, allowing you to plan for the future, whether it's cosmetic renovations, upgrades, things like that, help you with your cash flow. Number 4, tenant retention, super important. Like I said, the longer the tenant's there, invest in your tenant just like you would with your property. Compliance and insurance purposes team. That's how routine inspections keep you safe. And that's why they're important, and I think that's ultimately going to lead you to make the wealth that you guys want, that you guys deserve, which is super important. So, team, if there's any questions from that, I'll pop my email address up there. Always good to hear from you. If you're going to the summit Friday and over the weekend, come tap me on the shoulder. I'll certainly love to see you guys and have a chat. That'll be super awesome. But ultimately, team, all this sort of stuff at the end of the day is to keep you safe and make you wealthy. It's to allow you as the investor to make better decisions when it comes to your investment. Invest in your tenant, invest in your property, as I'm saying, but invest in your property manager. Said a few weeks ago, right? Show me your property manager and I'll show you your near future. I think, it's a really low cost to get it right. So team, super important in that space. I think that's it from me this morning. A couple more people jumping on. Chris, good stuff. Good to see you. Hopefully you're coming to the summit too, mate. We've got a question here before we go. Brendan, if you do an inspection, you find a few things wrong, say damage, but not major, how should the property manager handle this? Again, if it's wear and tear, Brendan, then obviously it's not necessarily a tenant conversation. Let's say it might not be the tenant's responsibility to fix wear and tear, obviously, but let's just say it's I'm going to assume it's a little, dent in the wall, someone's knocked the wall, or they've cracked a glass window, something like that. Considered minor, perhaps. If it's something that the tenant is responsible for, then the way I would handle that is contact the tenant and say, hey, Brendan, I've just conducted the routine inspection. Overall, the property was great. However, I noticed these 2 things. Give the benefit of the doubt. I'd allow that tenant to explain the situation to me, and then from there we'd have a conversation. Now, depending how that conversation went, and again, if I thought that they were responsible to fix it, then the idea would be for the tenant to obviously be part of the solution and rectify that particular issue that we've come across. Worst case scenario, right? You have the ability to deliver a breach notice and a remedy breach notice, obviously, to give the tenant some time to rectify that situation, and then you would play from there. So, sometimes it's not going at a 10 out of 10 energy level, depending what the situation is. I'm all about collaboration and trying to solve that problem, because I think it's a lot easier for everyone involved. And I think it's less time to do that and less cost ultimately. But again, I've certainly had some experience and heard a lot of stories from a lot of investors, across the group, whether they are with us or not. And sometimes this process doesn't happen. It's kind of ignored, right? So team, don't allow on your property manager don't rely on them all the time. You're relying on them to give you a good report, but I would say read your reports. If you haven't read your last routine inspection report, 5 minutes at your lunch break, pull up that last routine inspection report and go from there, team. So yeah, great question, Brendan. It's certainly something that's not handled well a lot of the time. So team, look, that's it for me. I can see the time's ticking away. Like I said, we do this about 10 past 8 every morning. I believe Jason's back tomorrow, perhaps. I think it's Thursday. He should be. So anyway, team, that's it for me today. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for participating. Hopefully that was helpful. If you're looking forward to, I'll look forward to seeing all of you, hopefully, at the summit over the weekend. And don't forget Finance Fridays as well, team. So that's it for me, team. Thanks so much. I will catch you soon. Have a good day.
Episode of Wealth Coffee Chat, folks. Make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your notifications so you never miss a thing when we go live. Improve your portfolio and investing game, folks, with Wealth Coffee Chats live every morning at 8:10 each weekday. Make sure you join us. Previous episodes are also available wherever you get your podcasts, folks, as well as our other podcasts from the 6 Star team here at positivementor.com.au.